This is the SAP BTP Lunch and Learn series where we are going to be covering incentive management planning today. I am your host, Sean Brown. I'm a Senior Director within the Center of Excellence for the Business Technology Platform at SAP. And we are joined today by Phil King, Vice President of Strategy and Growth for Tech Analytics. We've got a great customer story around planning today that we're looking forward to sharing with you. As we get started, I'm going to do a brief intro. We're then going to pass it over to Phil for him to tell the story that Tech Analytics has delivered. And then we will leave some session time at the end for questions. And if, by the way, if you have any questions along the way, you'd like to add them, please do so using the Q&A or the chat. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to be thinking about with regards to this topic of planning is that it falls within the BTP, the SAP Business Technology Platform. And I like to start with this oftentimes for discussions because really, it's really the purpose, the reason for the BTP. It really is about time. No amount of money bought a second at a time. I always thought that this was a really relevant quote. Anybody wants to know where it came from, I'll go ahead and send me an email afterwards, and I'll go ahead and give you some information. But essentially, this is the way our lives are, whether it's for work, whether it's for fun, no matter what, we're always in a situation where we're trying to do as much as we possibly can with the time that we have. And I don't know, I'm a little more senior in my career, and I find that actually is more and more true as I get older, that it's just more and more, I have to do as much as I possibly can with the time that I have. I need to do it more efficiently. I need to really get to my goals much faster. So real quick on the role of the business technology platform before we drop into our story today. The thing that I really like to make sure everybody understands is that SAP as a company is really an applications company. It's enterprise applications. And when we think about those applications, they have thousands of features and functions, things that they can do to address customer business needs, organizational business needs. If we think about the business requirements that those organizations have, for SAP or for any packaged capabilities in the marketplace, you're going to get some level of coverage. That level of coverage will vary depending on the package and the business requirements that you have, but a good number to kind of shoot for is somewhere around 70, 80, 90%. It could even be as low as 60 in some cases to address those needs. But when you get above a particular threshold, you talk to folks like Gartner and Forrester and the like, they'll talk about what that threshold is. It's essentially a point where you decide, should I buy off the shelf or should I build from scratch? Those who've been in the business long enough probably know that building from scratch, oftentimes, unless it's very, very, very simple need, very expensive to maintain over time. But there's those areas that are outside of that coverage for those enterprise applications, the things that really need to be addressed anyway. One of them popped up a little faster than I intended it for it to do in this case already, which is uncovered requirements. Those uncovered requirements are things that we don't know about yet. Our business models are constantly changing. So as they change, we end up with new things that need to happen. This is largely why you see software companies like SAP coming up with updates on a regular basis. They come up with those updates so that they can address the changing dynamics of the marketplace by industry, by organization. So as we move through those other things, uncovered requirements are one. The others, there are some other things that you know about, right? That's just how you operate. It's how you do your business, how you run, and you're not going to change, and they don't fit into a particular package solution nicely. Those are those differentiating elements that make you who you are as an organization. And then lastly, the integration across your entire landscape. When you have all of these duplications across your landscape, they don't come out of the box integrated with each other. And a business process tends to span more than one business application, as we'll see here in just a moment. The thing is, whoa, okay, that was a lot faster than it was supposed to go. Let's see if we can back up. Okay. Our system is flaking out here. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, there we are. Sorry about that, folks. So if you combine SAP's business applications along with our platform, SAP is in a unique position to suggest that we can cover 100% of your business requirements, something that's kind of unusual in the marketplace. So let's talk about this just a little bit more, which is really around satisfying those business processes. If we look at a business process, end to end, order to cash, procure to pay, hire to retire, name your business process or sub process of those macro processes, you're going to get a level of coverage for SAP applications or non-SAP applications. As we address that coverage, you'll see that the area of end-to-end business process still isn't covered fully. And that is because there are some aspects that will never be covered by a packaged solution because it doesn't make sense. There are others that we just haven't got there because of the efficiencies of how that would work. In any case, there is a need for a platform, and that platform will need to do things like integration, application development. Boy, we're having troubles again here, folks. Okay, we're back. We're having some coverage around all the things that we need to do for a platform. Now, integration, application development, automation, all these things that you see on the platform space, they are all things that you are probably doing today anyway. You are probably leveraging other platforms in the market today anyway. And what we're really doing here is we're suggesting that in many cases, you will want to use the SAP Business Technology Platform at a very minimum for SAP applications, in some cases, much more than that. And we can talk about that if you have more questions as to what those things may be. If we then talk a little bit about productivity, because this is the real thing that we get into as we talk about this, it gets into this question about no amount of money bought a second of time. We know that we're going to have a platform. We know that we're going to have to do these big things, right? The reason you might ask, why do I use SAP's platform over or in concert with existing platforms that I have today? And really what you get into is the fact that with the BTP, you're going to get there faster. That's the whole point of the BTP. In some areas, we will be a market leader for a platform capability among these items that you see on this screen. In some areas, we are a player, a strong player. But the point is that when you use SAP's applications with our platform, it is really about time to value. How quickly can I deliver on business requirements to address those business processes across my organization? Okay, so this is a good stopping point to just frame the discussion around why the BTP. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper now into the space of planning, and I'm going to hand it over to Phil to do that. Phil, you want to take it away?
Great. Thanks, Sean. Good day, everybody, and thanks again for joining us. As Sean mentioned, my name is Phil King. I am Vice President of Strategy and Growth at Tech Analytics. And we're here to talk today about a specific customer success story in the hopes it will shed some light on the possibilities that SAC planning for you and your respective companies or customers. But before we get into that, we've got a poll for you. Launch that. Trying to. Okay, launch. Question is, what percentage of you or your customers' financial planning and analysis is done manually? What I mean by manually is data is being manipulated in Excel, perhaps from another platform, another reporting tool, to be then put into another system. What percentage do you think is what you or your customers is manual today? Let's see what we got here. Okay, interesting. So the moral of the story is it's very challenging to not have manual intervention in your FP&As, but there's ways to mitigate that. Before we get into it, though, we're going to talk about the customer themselves, because it's part of the story is, who is this customer? So they are the world's leading automobile manufacturer. In 2022, they were number 8 on the global Fortune 10, with revenues of 250 billion euros, which is $270 billion US, spent 5 billion just on incentives. And they have 663,000 employees. Can anyone guess who they are? We're not going to share, but it's always a fun exercise to try to guess who these companies are. Instead of going at the beginning of the story, we're going to start at the end. What outcomes did this customer realize as a result of implementing SAC planning for their incentives? First, they had far more effective and accurate budget allocations because of the fact having one source of truth. Number one. Number two, the tool in and of itself, SAC, allowed for a single place, a single portal for anyone to see their information. It was in real time, so we can actually in real time see what they're spending on these particular promotions, what they're spending to get to that next level. Improved user experience. They had numerous systems, Excel and other reporting tools, that were taking information from and then putting them into other tools to deliver. That can be very challenging, as all of us know, mashing data together from multiple systems, which also increases risk. Like I mentioned before, not only is it for incentives planning, but it also sales and financial planning within the same tool. Therefore, you can not only plan for the future, but you can also bump up against actuals. And we also automated all the financial adjustments. So as the sales rolled in, as everything came through, we were able to manipulate that information into the system without any additional labor. And lastly, the reason I asked the previous questions, their manual interventions for their planning went down 65%. And it seems like a very large number, and it's very challenging to quantify. But if you put that in terms of, is it people reduction? Is it reallocation of assets? Is it reallocation of resources? What do you do with that 65% gain in productivity? Which leads us to our next poll question of, and this is probably a really silly question, and I think I know the answer to this already, but it's something that, we feel it's worth asking. So let's say you had a 65% reduction in your manual intervention. Is that a significant gain for your business? I mean, obviously the answer is yes, but at the same time, a lot of times we don't think about it. We don't think about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think people get so comfortable with what they're doing and how they're doing it, and it works for them, that they don't realize that there's other options out there, right? So if you think about what you're doing today and how you do it, does it work? Do you get to the end state you want to get to? Usually, yeah. But back to what Sean was saying earlier, you can't buy time. So if you can get more time, you have more time to do other things, whether it's professional or personal. It helps you get to that next state. So the results of our poll, yep, 100%. Everyone said yes, I agree. Okay, let's move on. So in 2024, the state of the auto industry is, pun intended, no longer a smooth drive. Fundamental changes are happening in the auto industry today. It's not what it used to be. From more frequent model and trim updates, electric hybrid revolution, volatile interest rates, and incentive wars. If you think about it, everyone wants to have the best deal. Everyone wants to have the best offer to entice their customers to buy from them. But it's a challenge. For instance, incentive-based price adjustments, there are multiple complex factors that need to be analyzed to ensure the proper offer. Things like on-hand inventory, location, geography, competitors' product pricing, and other similar elements. As I mentioned earlier, spending $5 billion on incentives represents a large financial commitment to any organization, whether you're a $10 million company and you're spending $1 million, or you're a $50 million company spending $500,000. It's still a significant commitment. So being able to effectively allocate these incentives enables more efficient spend to sales volume growth. There are multiple complex factors and the challenges that are addressed by this product to build an effective end-to-end incentive planning management system. It'll enable incentive planning, forecasting, workflow-based budget approvals, automation of publication and distribution, assessing performance against actuals with both financial and non-financial measures. Using predictive techniques to aid identifying high-value incentive opportunities, while at the same time understanding price volume elasticity. Now, I know that's a lot of big words, but bottom line, until I came into this project, we met with this customer, I really never thought about when you see that commercial on TV that says 1.9% financing was zero down for 60 months, didn't really make an impression on me until now. But now, having seen all the different components that go into these plans, it's amazing how when you're doing it so manually, it becomes so much more difficult and so much more time consuming. So everyone has planners. We have to be able to plan. We have to be able to forecast, whether it's for incentives, sales, margin, inventory, headcount, whatever the case may be. So what are the planner's headaches? As we already talked about, many manual and labor-intensive steps, which are prone to error. So what happens if a formula is missing a decimal place? What's the downstream effect? What if it's moved one to the left or one to the right? Also, because of the manual nature, it takes time and resources, which leads to slower go-to-market and higher costs. So if you have all this manual labor that goes into creating whatever the incentive might be or whatever the plan might be, it takes time and it takes money, therefore slowing you down. So if you compare, let's say, for example, typically it would take 6 to 8 weeks to put together an incentive for a program. What if you could take that down to, instead of weeks, to hours? What does that mean from a cost perspective? What does that mean from a go-to-market perspective, et cetera? What is in inventory? What is in dealer stock? And there's all these different components that you have to go through. What are the industry-standard bank rates, competitor offers? All of this is being provided to the planners in multiple formats for multiple systems. And since SAC has a BI engine, we were able to get all of this data harmonized in one single view. So no longer are we taking from disparate systems and putting it together manually. It's in one single view. So combining both incentives and financial planning into a single solution, there's high transparency and real-time integration from modeling programs to financial closing. So this is a quote from the Director of Finance and Planning at this manufacturer. Every year, we spend $5 billion on incentives, and it's a completely siloed and manual process. We need a better way to manage the end-to-end incentives allocation process, optimize spend and growth analysis, and improve incentive life cycle planning workflow, which accelerates time to market and penetration. So what did they do? As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, that's a dashboard. It's a master list of the reports and the files that you'll be able to see, given your security clearance. So first of all, we partnered with SAP to bring them this solution. We refined the technical and business processes. So this wasn't just about putting in new software. This was about truly redefining the business process. How do we get this done? So that's where we started, figuring out, okay, what's the best way to do it? And then leveraged SAC planning on the technical side to enable it. Created a single application. Like I mentioned before, depending on your access, you would have one place to go to see all of your dashboards, all of your information, et cetera. We also leveraged the SAC predictive capabilities to help understand better in the future what is going to happen and then plan accordingly. So for example, we can get down to a level of, okay, we see that winter's coming, for example. Do we want to sell convertibles in the winter? Probably not. Maybe in the south, but not in the north. What colors are popular this year? Is it black? Is it white? Is it red? Is it pink? Being able to model those things is incredibly important because then you can have a much better chance of having the right products in the right place at the right time. And obviously, we leveraged HANA for performance. When you have this much massive amounts of data, you need something that's quick. You don't want your users to be waiting. You don't want them to be, well, this is not working. It drains the confidence of the program as well as the company. So why SAC versus the competition? So let me tell you a quick story. In a previous life, I was responsible for business intelligence and planning for a $1 billion wholesale distributor. One of our biggest challenges was providing accurate and consistent information for which the business could make decisions. Makes sense, right? You want to have information. If you don't have information, you're making a gut instinct decision, which is not a good thing. Also, most of the reporting was siloed by the various departments and very ad hoc in nature. There were some corporate reports that were out there, but many of them, most of the leadership wanted their own analysts doing their own thing. So I remember one time I was at a quarterly board update. We have these where we get the board members together along with leadership, and kind of go over, what happened in the past quarter. And I remember sitting there when the sales leader started and he mentioned, hey, we were up last quarter. And then the marketing leader looks over and says, well, I show we were down last quarter. And then the CFO says, well, I show we were flat. So first of all, incredible silence in the room, just very uncomfortable. Everyone's kind of looking around at each other and how embarrassing is this? And it really made me realize that all three of those answers were correct in their own minds, right? So they thought this, they looked at this way, they included this, they excluded that, they used different data sets, they different formulas. But bottom line, it came down to we needed to have a single source of truth. And that's why we went with SAC. It addressed that business challenge. The other reason is integration. So if you're an SAP house, SAP has done a tremendous job aligning their products with each other. What Sean mentioned before about having the base and then having all those other pieces to it in BTP, it just makes sense. They're built to work together seamlessly. And I think of it like I have an iPhone and I download apps frequently, right? Do I want to go and try, they're meant to work with Apple, meant to work with iOS. Now, theoretically, I could go and try to download on the Samsung, the Android store, an Android app for my iPhone. But does that really make sense? What kind of configuration would I have to do to make that work? Why would I do that when I already have a viable solution that works, I know works with the Apple product? So thinking about, at integration, not only is it a cost savings, it's also a time savings. Again, you're seeing a common theme here with saving time. Back to my example, you've got one source of truth. So once the application is installed and you've built your story, there's one source of truth. You're not going to be seeing, okay, well, what formula did you use? What location? What data points did you use? Did you include them? What's the formula you used? Did you exclude something? So now we have one source of truth. So no matter who goes into the system, they can see what everyone else sees, and there's no inconsistencies. Total cost of ownership. Now, if you think about, going back even 5-6 years, this product wasn't really in existence. I mean, I recall being one of the first to implement SAC at this company, and it was great because we didn't have anything like it before. But the challenge was we had servers, we had maintenance upgrades, we had staff, we had to have extra security because everything was on premise. Well, now that it's in the cloud, a lot of those costs go away. A lot of that effort and those challenges go away, especially from a security standpoint. I mean, everyone hears every day about, hacks and siphoning data. I heard one this morning that 4 million students were, their data was taken from their schools. Like, why would someone do that? But it was medical information, it was security planning. So those are all huge risks that we face every single day. So having that security and having the confidence in the security is very, very important. And it's one of the very few tools that has BI and planning embedded in the same tool. Most are just analytics solutions, or most are just planning solutions, not to mention the seamless integration downstream with SAP systems and data write back. Okay, so what do we build into this application and why? So first, sales planning. Makes sense. How many cars need to be sold? How many parts need to be sold to meet the sales and margin targets that have been set by leadership? Very simple, makes sense. Everyone has to do that every single year. Incentive planning. So whether it's in-house, third-party financing, or a lease, there's lots of complicated intercompany financial transactions. How much it will cost to buy down the interest rate? Think about how interest rates have gone up over the last few years. Have you noticed there's not a whole lot of 0% financing anymore, or 0% down? It's because the rates are up. So Ford, Volkswagen, Fiat, all those companies have to buy back those percentage rates to get the lower rates. And what does that cost them? Financial planning and forecast. So if you think about cash offers, loyalty, extended planning, financing periods, all these driving events, no cash payments, you have to be able to not only plan for them, but you have to reconcile to them. You have to accrue. So for example, when a dealer sells a car, the dealer sends the invoice back to the brand, usually around 60 days of close. So accruals and month-end closings are extremely complex, but everything is built into SAC to support that, so it makes it a lot easier on the business. And then obviously reconciliation. How do we go back ensuring did our plan work or didn't it, and what do we do next, the next plan, the next incentive? So another quote from our Director of Finance and Planning: the partnership between customer, tech, and SAP was incredible. We were able to leverage SAP Analytics Cloud to modernize and automate a process that was broken and expensive. They made it a seamless process to manage our end-to-end incentives and management programs. Our planners love the new experience, and we have as a leadership team, and we are thrilled at the improved speed to market and information transparency. Tech brought in the best-in-class experts with deep automotive industry experience and thought leadership. So, in conclusion, are you looking to save money? The answer is yes. Everyone wants to save money, whether it's your personal business or it's your company. Everyone's always looking to improve that margin between the cost and the sales. So how does SAC enable that? Having real-time access to information that's reliable and consistent, you'll have the ability to make decisions faster and stay ahead of the competition. So you might be thinking, well, this is a $250 billion company. How does this pertain to me? Well, if you think about it, everyone does sales planning. Everyone does margin planning. That's just part of the nature of the business. Incentive planning is just a flavor. So whether you're a small company, middle-sized company, large company, SAC planning can help. We have customers who are much smaller than this particular customer. They're using it too, and they're doing the same things with it, and it's been very, very productive. Bottom line, this is sales and margin planning, which applies to literally any business. Package solution. Here at Tech, we offer many prepackaged solutions that can accelerate time to market as well as reduce costs. The solution you saw today is available on the SAP store now, available for download. And we also have other ones we'd be happy to talk to you about in the future that really, truly drive down, like I said, that time to market and the cost. So rather than taking 16, 18, 20 weeks to do something, maybe it takes 6 or 8. And lastly, Sean mentioned this earlier, alluded to it. Why buy off the shelf? And I would phrase that a little bit differently. I'd say, why wouldn't you? The idea of something that's prepackaged, pre-made, it's a solution that's proven from trusted professionals who have the experience and the knowledge to deliver something to a customer that's going to be far more productive and quicker to market. Why would you want to make your own app for your phone when you can just go buy it off the App Store? Why would you want to custom make any sort of program outside of SAP when you can go out and just buy it? Makes sense. It just makes sense. So that all said, if there's any questions, we'd be love to take them now. I appreciate your time. And Sean, do we have anything out there we can answer?
Let's take a look. But, the one thing I wanted to do, because, Phil just talked a lot about a number of different things that we really are hammering home in terms of the value. And I just kind of want to repeat a couple of them just for clarity. We have that prepackaged content getting you there faster. We have a unified user experience from analytics, predictive capabilities. If you're on S4, operational type of reporting, that's already something that your organization is using. And then today's topic of planning, all of that, the same user interface, the same user experience, transportability of content across. The last thing I really wanted to move into is that reduction in manual effort. And I think it has to be said again, even if you're not a $250 billion business, if you said 65 reduction in manual effort and it costs you $2 million a year, what's that? 1 million plus of savings. What would you do with that?